Welcome back, everyone. It is Eric from Rare Candy, and today I'm back bringing you guys some more Paldea Evolved tabletop gameplay. And this time we have a showdown between two very different new decks. So we have a matchup between the new United Wings deck and the new Copperajah EX. So it's kind of funny, the United Wings deck, it's all about these like small, low HP Pokemon that probably aren't ever going to be taking like big one-hit KOs, but they just put on quick pressure. It's not too hard of a deck to get up and going. And then over on the right, we have the Copperajah deck, which is the polar opposite. It's based around this 300 plus HP stage 1 that dishes out a ton of damage in the process here. It is a little bit slower. It does require the mag zone to get up and running, but if it can get set up, it is quite a tank to have to deal with. But if you guys do want to see the full deck lists that are being used in this video, I actually did deck profiles on the channel for both of them already, so I'll be sure to link them down below in the description if you want to get a better look at them. And it looks like I am getting to go first. I am going to start with Flamigo, which is not really my best starter. It's definitely a card I would rather bench from hand. But here I do find myself a Ralt, and I do have a Level Ball. So I am going to grab a Murkrow, tossing that away with the Ultra Ball. Okay, so it looks like I'm doing a good job of getting going so far here. Okay, so I'm going to grab myself Squawkabilly EX. Definitely, pretty much my ideal card I want to see here. You can only use its ability on the first turn, but you discard your hand and draw 6. So in a situation like this where my hand is pretty much dead, it's great. And also sometimes you can toss away some of these United Wings Pokemon, since that's really the whole strategy of this deck. It's kind of like the old Night March deck. It's kind of like the old Mad Party deck where you're just trying to discard as many of these Pokemon with the United Wings attack as possible, and you do more damage for every one that is going to be in the discard pile. And here you can see I am doing pretty well despite not having a supporter to use. I'm finding a fair bit of cards. I'm finding 2 Ralts, which is great because Crowley is going to be one of the ways I can actually toss away some of these Pokemon and also help get my deck set up a little bit more in the process here. From there, I'd imagine we'll just see it pass. Yeah. So going on over to Vince, let's see what he's going to have access to. So there's going to be a Nest Ball kicking things off. I imagine we'll see maybe another Magnemite or a Cufant. So it looks like Vince is eyeing himself down a Cufant. He definitely will need to get another Magnemite down at some point this turn in case his active one does go down, just because this Mag Zone, it's really the main way you can get this Copperajah set up. The Copperajah has a pretty strong attack, but it does require 3 energy, so he definitely needs to make sure these Magnemites stick around for a little bit. Here you can see he does get down the other one, and it looks like he's going to grab an Iono with that Lumineon V. So Iono, of course, going to be that new support card. Both players are going to shuffle their hands, put them at the bottom of their deck, then you both draw cards equal to the amount of prize cards that you have remaining. So in the opening turns like this, not a bad card, helps you get set up. But of course, in the late game, if Vince can time it right, he can put me down to maybe a 3-2, maybe even a 1-card hand to disrupt me at some point. So let's see what he's going to have here. So, okay, pretty strong first turn for Vince, to be honest. He just needs to find his evolutions next turn, and he's going to be in a good spot. Okay, and looking at my hand, it looks like Vince actually gave me quite a few options to work with here. So off this level ball, we might see a Crowley come down, but it looks like I am eyeing myself down a Wattrel here. So I must have a way to discard this if that is what I'm going to go for. Okay, yeah, I do have an Ultra Ball, so I can toss away both of these Wattrels. They are some more of these United Wings Pokemon, and I'm going to find myself a Crowley in the process. So of course, Crowley has that refinement ability. We've seen this card a ton during the Scarlet and Violet format. This list doesn't play any copies of Gardevoir or anything like that. We're playing it just for this refinement ability, but of course you discard a card from your hand and draw 2 cards. So that's going to help us, just dig through this deck, find a bunch of these United Wings Pokemon, and toss them away. And okay, from there, just to research. So yeah, pretty good start to this turn. Definitely need to find another energy, which I do have. And there's going to be a Hisuian Heavy Wall, so that will allow me to fish a Flamigo out of the prizes as well. Now, the next question is, how many of these United Wings Pokemon do I actually have in the discard? I know there's a few, but I do need 3 in the discard to knock out this Magnemite. I'm pretty sure I have gotten there, so I don't think that will be a big issue. Looks like there is going to be a Ditto coming down. and a collapsed stadium. So that's actually perfect because that's going to reduce both of our benches down to 4, and I can toss away that squawk ability, which of course is going to be a massive 2 prize liability for my deck. So here, going to use that refinement ability to discard Flamigo. I'm going to grab, looks like a Murkrow with that level ball. So yeah, I'm pretty much firing off on all cylinders at this point. This Magnemite is definitely going down. So we're going to toss away another Murkrow with Curlia there. And yeah, as you can see, I'm absolutely flying through my deck now. In the early game, it feels like you're putting in so much work to accomplish so little. But really, once you get these Curlias online and it's easier to toss away these United Wings Pokemon, it really does kind of feel like a snowball effect, and the deck just sort of takes off from there. But at this point, I don't know how much else I can really do. I just need to attach an energy for turn to attack, and I think that should round out my turn. Okay, looks like I am going to use a Trekking Shoes, but yeah, from there, I'll probably just attach a double Turbo Energy and call it a day. Now, it looks like that is what I'm contemplating here. I think I'm just double checking my discard, making sure I do have enough of these United Wings Pokemon, which I almost assuredly do. And so just going to take the first knockout of the game on this Magnemite. So Vince is going to confidently promote that Cufant there. He definitely needs to find himself Rare Candy Magnezone plus a Copperajah EX. So it was a good bit to ask for. But he does have a Professor's Research in his hand, so you know, he will be able to see quite a few cards this turn if he so chooses. And it looks like he is playing that new Super Rod, getting a Magnemite back. And it looks like we are discussing something here. I think we were talking about if like there was a world where Vince should have maybe just promoted the other Cufant in case he whiffs the Magnezone. He can attach an energy to this Cufant with the energy on the bench, you know, and that way, even if he doesn't have the Magnezone, he's still threatening just a manual attachment to finish powering it up. But ultimately, he's saying, you know what? We're just going to find it. We're going to find the Magnezone. We're going to find the Copperajah. No big deal. So there's going to be an Ultra Ball here. Looks like a bit of a tough one for Vince. You can see he's a little bit torn about what he wants to do with the Ultra Ball. But he does have the Copperajah. Unfortunately, just no rare candy to go with it. So at this point, yeah, he's just going to evolve, attach it, and pass. At least this way, the Copperajah can't be knocked out by this Flamigo. Or I should say the Cufants wouldn't be able to be knocked out by the Flamigo. But there's going to be an Ultra Ball tossing away 2 Wattrel. So, I mean, that's exactly what you like to see with this deck. And yeah, with 3 Curlias up and running, yeah, I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue to comfortably 2-shot this Copperajah. Copperajah, it's actually a pretty good Pokemon to go up against this United Wings deck if it does stumble a little bit in the early game, just because Copperajah has 300 HP already, and it has an ability that reduces damage by 30. So, you know, if I was having a little bit of a slower start, there is a world where I might have had to have 3-shotted this Copperajah. But I think at this point, this is going to be a pretty safe 2-shot for my deck. And here you can see I'm just flying through my deck with all of these Curlias here. I do have a Dark Energy in hand, so I imagine I might see that come down on the Ditto. That definitely seems pretty good. Here it looks like I am just double checking all of my United Wings Pokemon. So it's hard for me to get a good count on them looking at the screen here, but I think I remember what happens this turn. We'll have to see if this is the game I'm remembering, but I feel like I Serena here if I remember correctly. But we'll see. Because I have that Serena in hand. I could attack the Copperajah, but I think if I remember correctly this turn, I was thinking, you know what, I'm not doing a crazy amount of damage just yet, and there is a world where maybe if Vince gets down his Crystal Cave, which is his stadium he's running in this deck, you know, there might be a world where my 2-shot math could get a little messed up here. And even though I could retreat into Ditto, which doesn't have that double turbo energy reduction, I'd rather Vince be knocking out my United Wings Pokemon to fuel my future attacks. So I'm thinking maybe I should just go for a play on attacking this Lumineon. I think that's what I'm thinking about. So you can tell I'm a little bit conflicted here about how I want to approach this, but I am ultimately going to chase down that Lumineon. But I'm technically not knocking it out, only doing 140, but that's actually a perfect number because The Copperajah EX, it does do 260 damage, which is great most of the time, but you also do 30 to all of your own bench Pokemon. So effectively, even though I'm not knocking out this Lumineon, I still kind of am one-shotting it because, you know, it's just going to give up these 2 prizes as soon as Vince attacks with his Copperajah. And also by bringing it up, it kind of strands it in the active. It forces Vince to need an additional energy to retreat and an energy to still attack with Copperajah. But let's take a look at what Vince is up to over here. He is actually going to be able to get off the rare candy play. It looks like he does have his Magnezone here. That Hurte did find him the rare candy. So he just needs an attachment for turn plus an energy off of this Magnezone, because the Magnezone, you look at the top 6 cards of your deck, you attach any metals there to your Pokemon any way that you like, and he found the one that's perfect. That's all we need. So now he can retreat this Lumineon and attach the other one that's in his hand and take a knockout and get back in this game. But like I mentioned, this Lumineon is going to go down in the process. That is unfortunately a drawback to this turn for him. So I'm going to go down to 3 prizes here. Going to promote this Ditto. And Ditto's actually probably one of my deck's best attackers, especially as we get deeper into the game. Just because Ditto, it copies the attacks of the Pokemon in your discard pile, which is great because instead of having to attack with these United Wings Pokemon, you can just toss them away, keep them safely secured in your discard pile to do more damage and let Ditto just use their attacks instead. And at this point, I would imagine I've probably gone through a decent amount of these United Wings Pokemon. It looks like I just have 3 left in total. You can see my deck is next to nothing at this point too. So at this point, I think it's safe to say this is going to be a pretty comfortable 2-shot on this Copperajah. And it looks like I am just double checking my math, probably just making sure I can 2-shot this Copperajah. Again, I don't think that's going to be a huge issue at all. So between all the attackers that are in there now and potentially any that I discard on the next turn, again, even if Vince does do a little bit of healing shenanigans, this should be a pretty comfortable 2-shot at this point. And yeah, just going to see the attack with Ditto, soften up this Copperajah. And so let's see what Vince is going to do here. He definitely is in a little bit of an awkward spot right now because this Copperajah is going to go down. So it looks like he's debating setting up another Magnezone if possible. So Vince definitely can just take the KO with this Copperajah, but there also is a world where he could potentially power up even this Qfint on the bench or even this Magnezone and take a knockout with those instead. But he does find some energy off of the Magnezone, so that's a good start to his turn here. It looks like he is debating if he wants it on the Qfint. Okay, but he is going to spread his energy around a little bit here and then just go for an Iono. Ooh, and if I'm seeing correctly, I think Vince actually might have shuffled that Professor's Research in his hand back into his deck. With Iono, it's not like the old End card or even like Judge where you shuffle your remaining cards into your deck. It's like Marnie and you have to put them at the bottom of your deck. So funny enough, even before we recorded these matches, he actually told me that's like one thing he's been struggling getting used to is getting out of that end mindset when it comes to Iono and remembering to put the cards at the bottom of your deck. So I'm sure this was just an accident on his part here. And it's only one card he shuffled in, so to be honest, this probably won't even really impact this game either. But as far as my turn goes, it looks like I'm starting to dig through my deck a little bit here with these refinement abilities, tossing away it looked like a Murkrow and a Flamigo. And I'm going to knock out this Copperajah this turn. I think that's a guarantee at this point. So really, I think all I want to do at this point is find some sort of gusting effect to get around this next inevitable Copperajah that Vince is eventually going to try to set up. So whether it's a Boss's Orders or an Escape Rope, either one will do the trick at this point. So just going to take the KO, go down to a single prize here. And we did see Vince top deck the research, so, you know, maybe that was the same research he shuffled in. I don't know. Either way, I'll let him have it for this game because I don't think it's actually going to change anything. And I think Vince is probably just checking like counts of Boss's Orders and stuff like that. Maybe just trying to see the odds that he'll be able to, you know, actually wall for a turn. Okay, there's going to be an Ultra Ball. Okay, grabbing a Mag Zone. You know, I think I saw a Boss's Orders in Vince's hand as well. So there could even be a world where he was maybe checking my energies to see if maybe he could go for like a boss stall play on this Korolia. That's definitely, you know, potentially something as well. So there's going to be the rare Candy Mag Zone, which is good. That is actually going to save that Magnemite from being knocked out by Copperajah's attack. And he does have a boss. I don't know if it matters too much here, but he can play that if he wants to get rid of a Korolia. Maybe get rid of some of my draw options. Okay, I see what he was doing here. He was like, you know what? I probably shouldn't attach this energy from hand. Should probably actually see if I can get energy off Mag Zone, because then I can discard it with Greninja to see a few more cards. So, yeah, that seems pretty good. And it looks like he used a second Mag Zone to no effect at this point. Okay, and there's the concealed cards, and he does find himself a research here. There's the Crystal Cave, so that is going to heal down some of these other Pokemon, but again, it really doesn't matter too much at this point, I think. I just need an escape rope, and that will wrap up the game here. So I actually had boss or the escape rope, so either way, it was pretty much a wrap. So yeah, kind of an unfortunate game one there for Vince. I was able to play around as Copperajah almost the entire game. You know, in total, I think I really only dealt with the one Copperajah EX. I was able to sort of just boss and escape rope around it to fill out my other 4 prizes. But this is going to be a best of 3 series, guys, so Vince definitely has a shot to bring this one back. And he's going to get to go first this game, which is definitely an advantage. That means he can start evolving a little bit sooner. Now, the one downside, though, is that the United Wings deck definitely has the possibility to attack on turn 1, since the deck is largely made up of basic attackers here. And unfortunately, we just see an attached pass on Vince's first turn. So, and I definitely have quite a few options in my opening hand. So there's going to be a Nest Ball. I think it's going to be pretty important to find Squawkabilly because I don't have a supporter in my hand. So yeah, I definitely want to find that. And it looks like I have a Level Ball. And I think I have 2 more Ball Search cards in my hand. So, okay, it looks like it's just an Ultra Ball. And I think the other card is Escape Rope. That's the other card that I saw. So let's see, I could get down to Ralt. I also could just grab a United Wings Pokemon to toss away with this Squawkabilly, because if I can reach 10 Pokemon in the discard pile, or not 10 Pokemon, I'm sorry, but 5 Pokemon in the discard pile, that will be 100 damage, and that will allow me to knock out this active Cufant. So here, I'm just grabbing, it looks like a Wattrel, and I'd imagine at this point, we'll see an Escape Rope to switch into Ditto, and then discard this hand and draw 6, and hopefully find enough Pokemon to take the KO on this Cufant here. That is the goal, at least. So there is the Escape Rope. And this is kind of an unfortunate discard here. I would love to keep that Collapse Stadium to eventually get rid of Squawkabilly from my field like I did in that first game, but you know what? We got to go for it. But unfortunately, this hand is not the greatest. This is actually pretty bad, and I think this actually might be like a slight misplay on my part too. Not benching the Flamigo just because we haven't seen this just yet in this matchup, but the Flamigo does have a good ability. Whenever you bench it, you can search your deck for up to 3 other Flamigos and put them into your hand. So I think I probably should have done that at the least just to thin some more cards out of my deck here, but maybe I had some prized and maybe I was thinking, you know what? Well, if I prize 2 as an example, if I bench this one, I'm only thinning 1 extra card out of my deck, so maybe it's not worth it. So I'm not sure what happened there, but either way, kicking things over to Vince here. He does find himself a Magnemite at this point. He does have the Copperajah EX as well, so this Cufant is going to manage to stay alive. And honestly, even if Vince can just manually power up this Copperajah, I'm having kind of a sluggish start, and I think he'll still be fine that way. So yeah, Vince's deck is sort of coming alive here. He's got the second Cufant, he's got the Radiant Greninja, so he will be able to use that Concealed Cards ability to draw a couple more cards here. We actually do see the Crystal Cave in his hand as well, which will allow him to heal down this Copperajah. And that one Collapse Stadium is my only stadium in the deck. So if he plays this down, it's going to stay in play basically the entire game. And here looks like, I guess he's just checking how many Pokemon I've gotten rid of so far. And yeah, he is going to get down the Crystal Cave. That's going to heal down that little bit of chip damage I was able to do last turn. And unfortunately, just a top deck into another energy, which feels pretty bad. So just probably debating what I actually want to do with this hand. I guess I can just keep attaching to Dittos. And here I am going to play that Flamigo. Okay, so this is what I was sort of talking about on the last turn. Normally, I would have just played that Flamigo down last turn, thin more cards out of my deck, but as you can see, I did prize a few Flamigos. But at this point, I'm just kind of in desperation mode. I'm just trying to sack these Flamigos and just thin cards out of my deck as much as possible, even if it's just a single card. I just need to find a draw supporter at this point. But there's going to be the Irida, so this is, you know, pretty much what Vince wants to see. He's probably going to be able to guarantee the Magna Zone here. Oh, actually, I don't think he's going to be able to. His only card left in hand is going to be another Irida. But that's okay. He has the 3 metal energies on his active already, so he doesn't really need the Magna Zone this turn anyways. And at this point, Vince is going to be able to just start putting on pressure and, you know, taking KOs. And that 30 damage he's doing isn't even a big deal because, again, he does have that Crystal Cave, which is going to allow him to heal 30 from each of his benched metal or dragon Pokemon. And here I'm just going to get down another Flamigo and pass over to Vince. And there's going to be that Crystal Cave healing off his Pokemon yet again. And actually just pointing out too that Copperajah shouldn't have taken any damage on the last turn just because it does have an ability that reduces damage by 30, which does apply to your own Pokemon as well. So now that he has both these attackers set up, neither one of them can actually hurt each other at this point. But there's going to be Ultra Ball tossing away an Iono and a Rare Candy. Vince definitely does not want to play the Iono at this point, just because he knows my hand is completely dead. So there's going to be the Lumineon with the boss's order, so he's going to bring up that Squawk ability. You know, I was able to deny him that free 2 prizes in the last game, but this game I had to toss away that Collapse Stadium, so now that Pokemon's just sitting on my bench for a play like this to happen. So there's going to be Magna Zone finding 2 energy to power up his next Copperajah. And at this point, Vince he's probably feeling great. He has, you know, all of his main Pokemon in play at this point, even though he does have that 2 prize bench sitter sitting there waiting to be an easy 2 prizes. At this point, he might just be too far ahead for it to even really matter. So there's going to be Hisuian Heavy Ball. I can guarantee to find myself a Pokemon out of there. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't really get me very far. This doesn't really help me draw cards or get set up any better. But it's not nothing. And here, just going to retreat. And I could be attacking with Ditto during these turns, guys, but the issue is the Copperajah reduces my damage by 30, and he has the Crystal Cave to just heal off any damage that I do. So I'm better off just sacrificing these United Wings Pokemon, because at least that is going to fuel my attacks on future turns if I can draw out of this funk that I'm in. But as you can see, Vince is already down to 3 prizes, and I haven't taken a single one yet. So I hate to say, but I feel like this game is pretty much over. I don't really see a great path to victory unless Vince plays himself into a corner where he runs out of energy and leaves himself vulnerable to like a boss stall play. That's really the only way I think Vince could lose at this point. But the list he's playing has 14 energy plus 2 super odds, so you know, chances are pretty slim that that's going to happen. But yeah, at this point, I mean, I found myself the Ralts, but I don't even have the Curlia for next turn. So I'm just going to retreat into the Wattrel, probably sacrifice that. And yeah, I should probably just scoop things up at this point. If this were a tournament, I would have scooped probably a turn or 2 ago. But, you know, we're going to play it out just for fun, guys. You know, Vince didn't have the greatest game 1, so I think he deserves a little bit of a morale boost here. So there's going to be another knockout on Wattrel. And yet again, another useless card. So at the least, I'm going to do a little bit of damage before we pack this one up and go to a game 3. So after sacrificing all of this Pokemon, I was able to at least do, what, I think a whopping 70 damage or something. But yeah, Vince took a pretty commanding game 2 there. And I'm just going to have to avoid having a start like that in this last game. I mean, I actually had a pretty good turn 1 with the Squawk ability, but those 6 cards that I found just really didn't do a whole lot for me. So if I can just dodge that same sort of turn one, I think I'm going to be feeling pretty good. So I am going to get to go first since I did lose that last one, and I do open with a Murkrow, which is one of the deck's better starters. I think you really just don't want to open with the Flamigo, just because its ability only activates when you play it from hand. But there's going to be Hisuian Heavy Ball right out the gate here, so that is going to allow me to find either a Wattrel or a Ralts. We'll have to see which one I am going to go for. I think I want to see the Ralts here, and it looks like that is the one. Well, maybe I'm second guessing myself, but it looks like that is what I'm going to go for here. Crowley is, my main engine that I'm going to use to get going, so I just want to start establishing these Ralts, pretty early here. And I have a ton of Ball Search cards in my hand, so I have a couple different ways I could go with this turn. I actually could have a more conservative turn one and just try to set up a couple Ralts and then evolve into 2 Curlies next turn and get going, or as you can see, I'm going to go for that Squawkabill EX yet again, just because it does allow for these really explosive opening turns. But there's going to be 2 level balls. So let's see what I'm going to grab here. Going to find, looks like a Wattrel and a Murkrow. So I could get down, look at another Ralts, but I just want to start tossing away these Pokemon and start threatening a turn 2 attack. But here's going to be that Flamigo coming down. Like I said, you can only use its ability whenever you bench it from hand. So I'm going to grab 3 more Flamigos, and this is going to be a pretty insane Squawkabilly that we have here. And I'm not even done. I have 1 more Ultra Ball I'm going to use before I dump this hand. So I could grab, again, another United Wings Pokemon, or I can grab a Ralts here. And it looks like I'm going to go for the Ralts. I have enough of these United Wings Pokemon in the discard pile at this point. If I can set up Crowley's next turn, I'll be able to get even more into the discard pile that way. So there's going to be the Squawk and Seize ability on Squawkabilly. Unfortunately, I do have to toss away that Collapse Stadium turn 1 yet again, but I think the trade-off here is going to be worth it. So especially looking at my hand, I'm going to be able to do things with this hand. I have a Serena for next turn, so I think I'm going to be feeling okay. And it looks like I am debating if I want to get down the 3rd Ralts here, or if I want to save it for an attacker, but it looks like I do go for the Ralts here. And just going to pass over to Vince at this point. So he's going to kick things off with that Concealed Cards ability to get him 2 more additional cards here. And he does have a Nest Ball, and he has an Irida as well. Okay. So this will allow him to get a Water Pokemon and an item card, put him in his hand. So it looks like there's going to be a Nest Ball. And does he have any Water Pokemon even in deck? We know the Lumineon is in his hand. Okay, there's going to be a Magnemite coming down. So we'll have to see what else he's going to do. He might just have to try to sacrifice this Greninja, but there's going to be the Manaphy and a retreat into the Manaphy and a pass. So Manaphy, pretty useless in this match. It's a good Pokemon to toss away here, but one issue that Vince has is that I do have a Boss's Orders in hand. Going to target down that Magnemite immediately and sort of rob Vince of the turn 2 Magazone play, which, he definitely needs if he wants to get off an attack on this next turn. So not a whole lot of action from my turn there, but getting that boss play was absolutely massive, even if it meant I didn't see a ton of cards. And so you can see that was kind of unfortunate that I did target down the Magnemite, because Vince had the Lumineon. He could have guaranteed the Irida to get him that, final piece he needed to get Magazone in play, but is what it is. He is able to bounce back, pretty well this turn. I think he found 2 more Magnemites just in case of another aggressive boss play like that. But either way, at this point, I think I'm cool with just knocking out the Manaphy. Just going down to 2 prizes feels pretty good. Gonna find my remaining basic out of the prizes. Gonna get that Wattrel that I left in the prizes on turn 1. And we'll see what route I'm gonna go with this hand. I could just research it, or if I want to save the research for next turn, I could just go with a Serena, but ultimately just going to toss away this whole hand, draw 7. Just want to see as many cards as possible here. Definitely want to start finding these Crolias as well. And I do find 1, so that's off to a good start. There's going to be Trekking Shoes. So going to toss away a research and grab 1 more card here. I do find myself a Palpad. So tossing away Murkrow. And there's going to be a level ball, so I can actually grab another Curlia at this point. And now my deck is, I'm feeling a lot better than how I was on my second turn in game 2 there. This is what you want with the whole United Wings deck. So what am I actually going to discard? Because I don't actually have any more United Wings Pokemon to toss away, but there's going to be a Serena hitting the bin. Okay, I do find myself another Koroya, so again, I can toss away another supporter here, and it looks like that is what I'm eyeing down here. So if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure all of my professor's research are in the discard pile. So let's see what I'm actually going to get back here. So definitely gonna get Boss, and then probably Serena back. I think these are pretty good, just because with this deck, you really want research to get set up. But once you have all these Koroyas in play, you don't really need the researches at this point. The only supporters you probably want to play are going to be like gusting effects. So it definitely makes sense getting the Boss and the Serena back. And just going to take the knockout on poor little Manaphy over there. So let's see what Vince is going to be able to do. He's definitely going to be looking for that Mag Zone to be able to set up an attack with this Copperajah. So there's going to be an Ultra Ball, tossing away Iono and a Mag Zone. Probably not what he wants. You know, he would definitely like that Mag Zone play, not the discard pile, but it looks like he's gearing up for just a big, aggressive Professor's Research. He just wants to thin as many cards out of his deck as possible before he dumps his hand so he can find that rare Candy Mag Zone combo. So there's going to be the Research, and oof, that is a whiff. But he does still have the Concealed Cards ability on this Greninja here. So he actually can use that to dig just a little bit deeper and maybe find himself that Mag Zone. Here you can see he's not actually putting any additional cards back in his deck. He's only getting the Mag Zone and Lumineon. He wants to maximize his chances of finding this Pokemon on this turn here. So this is definitely going to be a big concealed card. If he gets there, he might be able to actually get this knockout. And unfortunately, not the two cards he was looking for. So there's going to be a Choice Belt and a Manual Attachment coming down. And there is going to be a Nest Ball as well, although I don't know what he actually wants to get down. We could see a Cufant coming down, but he is opting to fail it. Going to keep that bench space open, maybe for a Lumineon V on the next turn, if he does ever want to get that down. So here looks like I'm just taking a look through my discard, probably just checking how many United Wings Pokemon I have, and that's a perfect Trekking Shoes, tossing away a Wattrel and grabbing one additional card. And yeah, at this point, I'm feeling pretty good. I think I'm even cool just to safely just swing into this Copperajah. Now, I do have a Boss's Orders. I could even consider bringing up this other Copperajah. And if Vince can't find a Mag Zone to evolve into, that Copperajah could be stuck for a turn and might just allow me to get a free 2 prizes without him getting an attack off. So that is definitely one play I could consider going with. I also have an Escape Rope, so I could sort of bait Vince into throwing up something else. But it looks like I am going to go for the Boss's Orders. And looks like, again, maybe I'm second guessing myself because Vince hasn't switched just yet. Okay, yeah, so it looks like I'm not sure about the Boss. Pretty conflicted. I mean, I think I'm cool even just to swing into the active Copperajah as well. I don't think that's bad. You know, I don't have all of my United Wings Pokemon in the discard pile just yet, so maybe I am concerned maybe about a Crystal Caves play or something like that, but I don't think I have any bad plays at my disposal. I think swinging into the active is fine. I think swinging into the Copperajah on the bench is okay as well. And it looks like it is in the discard, so I am debating bringing up something. Okay, but I'm actually going to bring up the Greninja. So maybe just make it a little bit harder on Vince to find that rare Candy Mag Zone combo on this next turn. Because I don't think I need to bring up Magnemite because it doesn't really do anything since Vince has a second one down. So we'll see what Vince is going to do here. He does have the Lumineon V, so he could get that down and go for like an Irida play. But there is going to be the Iono. He's going to shuffle up his deck there, put it at the bottom of his deck. So he made sure not to do the thing he did in game 1 where he accidentally shuffled a Research back into his deck. But either way, he does have the attachment to finish powering up this Copperajah. Going to get down another Cufant as well. So Vince has finally started to stabilize a little bit. Unfortunately, he still doesn't have his Candy Mag Zone combo, but he has enough to carry him for at least a couple of turns here. So his bench Pokemon do have to take 30 damage from that attack. But if he ever does find that Crystal Caves, he is going to be able to heal off that damage on future turns. So there's going to be a Murkrow coming out the deck. Probably just going to toss that away with Curly here. And there's not too much I think I really want to see at this point. I do have an Escape Rope, so I do think that is an option as well. Again, maybe I can get Vince in a spot where he forces up this Copperajah without any energy, or could force him to also send up a benched 1 prizer, which would put me back on even prizes. Or I could just attack the active. Again, guys, I feel like I don't really have any bad plays at my disposal. My deck is pretty much firing off on all cylinders. There's not too much that I've wanted that I haven't hit in this game, if we're just being honest. Okay, and there is the Escape Rope. So that definitely is, a play I could decide to go for that I was just talking about a second ago. Here, probably just checking how many of those United Wings Pokemon I have access to. And let's see what route I'm going to go here. Thinking about attaching to the Ditto definitely makes sense. There's no harm in doing that. But let's see. There's the Escape Rope. Okay, so you saw I was a little bit conflicted there. But no matter what Vince promotes here, I think I'm cool with it, because if he promotes the Copperajah, like I said, it forces him to find the rare Candy Mag Zone. Otherwise, this is basically just a free 2 prizes. And here I did remind Vince that Copperajah actually shouldn't have taken any damage, just because it does have an ability that reduces damage by 30, which even does include your own attacks as well. But here, Vince, he doesn't want a chance whiffing the Magna Zone, so he is going to just feed me a Cufant here. It is a little bit risky, because now all I have to do is just trade with 1 Copperajah, and that's eventually going to be the game. But at this point, he's gone through so many cards. I feel like it's so unlikely that he doesn't hit the Candy Magna Zone combo. So I think maybe if I was in Vince's spot, I feel like, you're down a little bit already. I think at this point, you just need to get a little bit lucky to have a chance to win this one anyways. So I think in hindsight, I probably would have just promoted the other Copperajah here and said, you know what, we're just going to hit the Magna Zone. No big deal. And there's the research. So can he finally find it? Okay, there's going to be the Crystal Caves. That is going to allow him to heal off the 30 damage from those Magnemites. And yeah, like I said, he actually would have found the Magna Zone if he did go for that play. But you know what? He was playing it safe there. And either way, he is going to be able to attack this turn with this active Copperajah. So checking how many cards I have left in deck at this point. Maybe checking how much damage I've done, maybe checking how many energies I've used. That's definitely something to watch out for. Definitely don't want to make sure I run out of resources. Maybe I'm debating what I actually bench here. Okay, but I'm going to toss away the Serena, finding myself a Ditto. Definitely wanted to have that down for the next turn. Going to get down a Dark Energy. So again, I'm pretty much in a good spot no matter what here. I don't think there's anything I really want to see in particular at this point. I think I just want to trade comfortably with a Copperajah to close out this game. I swing on this thing, I have Boss's Orders ready to go, and then from there, I can win the game. That is going to be the hope, at least. So it looks like Vince is checking my discard pile, maybe checking how much damage I'm actually doing here. And it looks like I'm debating retreating the Flamigo. I think the thought here is if I retreat the Flamigo, right now it has a double turbo energy. It's reducing its damage. If I retreat into Ditto, that's going to allow me to do 20 more damage. In between this 30 damage reduction and the Crystal Cave, I might need every last bit of damage that I can get here. So I think that is the thought. But there's going to be another refinement, getting rid of a Cyclozar. Not a Pokemon we've seen too much of in this particular series, but normally is pretty good because it does give you a free retreater you can always promote in between knockouts. But at this point, don't really need it. I have everything I need on board. And it looks like I have a Super Rod. Maybe that's something I'm contemplating as well. But just going to swing on this Copperajah here. Looks like after all of the damage reduction, it is going to bring it down to 170 damage, which is still enough to pretty comfortably, I think, two-shot this thing. Because even with a Crystal Cave's heal going down to 140, another attack from really any of my Pokemon should be enough to finally take this guy down. If I just do another 170, that's still going to be a KO. So there's going to be the Rare Candy Mag Zone. Finally going to get one of these guys set up. And I think at this point, Vince just needs to retreat this active Copperajah and power up this other one. Because he doesn't know I have my last boss's orders. For all he knows, it could be my prizes. So he just needs to get this active one out of harm's way. But the issue is it has a 4 retreat cost. So Vince is going to get down this Lumineon. Probably just trying to thin something out of his deck before he uses this Magnezone ability. Because at this point, the Lumineon, it's effectively no different than the Copperajah. If I have boss, I can win by knocking out either one. Though in the case of Lumineon, it does open me up to being able to Serena instead. But maybe both of my Serenas are gone because this list does play 2. So maybe Vince checked that and realized, okay, Lumineon is safe at this point. I'm basically just scared of boss now. So there's going to be the Magnezone. And it looks like he does hit it. So he will be able to actually retreat this Copperajah and retreat to a fresh one on the bench. But even still, he's at 4 prizes. He still needs 3 more KOs in total because he wants to knock out 2 1-prizers and eventually this Squawk ability as well. So can he buy enough turns to actually get there? I don't think so though, just because I do have the boss's orders. And of course that is going to be the game. So he finally found the Mag Zone, but it was just a little bit too late. I think really ultimately what this series boiled down to is in games 1 and 3, I was able to dance around these Copperajahs and just sort of take a lot of cheap, easy prizes, and then usually only having to deal with like a single one to close out the game. But either way, I hope you guys did enjoy some of this tabletop gameplay. Of course, if you did, be sure to leave a like on the video. Or if maybe you're feeling a little extra generous, you can always become a patron at patreon.com/rarecandytcg, or you can pick up some merch over at rarecandytcg.com. But as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.